Imagine just mining cryptocurrency right on your phone. No expensive gear, no crazy energy bills. Sounds pretty revolutionary, doesn't it?
It really does capture the imagination.
Yeah. So today, we're doing a deep dive into the Pi network. We want to unpack those big promises, look at its unique approach, but also, the real operational hurdles and market challenges it's facing. We'll use your sources to try and cut through some of that hype.
Absolutely.
The initial thought, for me anyway, is, what does it actually mean to democratize crypto if the way it works is so different from what we usually think of?
That's a core question, really.
Okay, so let's get into that vision.
Yeah.
Pi Network's big goal, they say, is making crypto accessible for everyone, simplifying this whole mining thing through just a mobile app.
Right.
The mechanism seems simple enough. Tap a button daily on your phone. It uses this energy-efficient algorithm based on the Stellar Consensus Protocol, SCP. It's less about raw computing power.
Yeah, it's more about network agreement, not proof of work like Bitcoin. And they've got, over 60 million users involved across 200 countries. It's definitely grabbed attention.
For sure. 60 million is huge.
But what's really fascinating, I think, is how Pi defines mining. It's just fundamentally different. It's not that energy-guzzling, computational grind you see with Bitcoin.
Right.
Pi's model is much more about, user engagement, distribution. The idea is that value comes from the community itself, its size, its activity, rather than computational work.
So it's a shift in how value is even created, theoretically.
Exactly, a fundamental shift.
Yeah.
And that naturally brings up questions about legitimacy, about intrinsic worth. It's a challenge to the traditional crypto model.
Okay, so not traditional mining.
Yeah.
But still, 60 million users. That's a massive community. You can't deny that.
No, you can't.
But getting from that big vision to actual reality, that seems to be where the bumps are. As Pi moved from beta through testnet towards this mainnet everyone's waiting for, our sources show some pretty big hurdles. There are even these conflicting dates flying around for the open mainnet. Some reports pointed to February 2025 with a price surge. Others are looking more towards Q3 or Q4 2025.
Which suggests maybe a closed mainnet first, not fully open, restrictions still in place.
Yeah, exactly. And even though millions have apparently done the KYC verification, I think some sources say over 18 million.
Yeah, the KYC numbers are quite high.
But people are still running into problems. Our sources mentioned, KYC applications getting stuck, issues with two-factor authentication, wallet errors. Lots of users apparently still can't actually get to their mined coins or even migrate them to the mainnet.
And you've really hit the core challenge there. If you connect the dots, that directly impacts the coin's liquidity. Even if, say, 13.7 million users have migrated, like some reports suggest,
right.
If they can't properly access or use their tokens, it massively limits the effective supply out there. It limits its presence in any real market.
So people can't easily use what they've earned.
Which creates a big trust issue, right? It sort of undermines the whole potential if users can't turn their effort, their mining, into actual value.
Yeah, that makes sense. With those access problems and, the lack of major listings, it really makes you wonder about Pi's long-term viability. Can that goal of truly accessible crypto actually happen if users are stuck?
It's a critical point.
And our sources highlight this. Pi Network is not on the big exchanges. You won't find it on Binance or Coinbase.
That's a major hurdle for legitimacy.
And the reasons, there's blockchain incompatibility. It's not an ERC20 token, which is, the common standard on Ethereum, makes it trickier for many exchanges.
Right, technically more difficult to integrate.
Then there are transparency concerns.
Yeah.
Especially with the core team reportedly controlling a huge chunk of the tokens, like over 93 billion out of 100 billion.
That level of centralization raises eyebrows in the crypto space.
Definitely. And regulatory questions, too, because of how it grew that referral-based model. It relies heavily on users bringing in new users to boost their own mining rates.
Which has led to comparisons with MLM or multi-level marketing. Some authorities have even labeled it that way.
Yeah. And despite this whole idea of blockchain being decentralized, the Pi core team seems to keep significant control over the tokens, and also the validator nodes those computers processing transactions.
So, putting it all together, you've identified the key friction points. A crucial question comes up. How can Pi Network possibly get broad market acceptance, build real trust, if it's wrestling with transparency issues, centralization, and just the basic function of letting its huge user base actually use their tokens? It wants to be this digital currency for the masses, but if access and credibility are shaky, that whole vision starts to look, well, highly speculative.
Okay, so let's try to sum this up. Pi Network has definitely built an impressive community, huge numbers, and it has this unique mobile-first way of getting people involved in crypto. That's clear.
Agreed. The community aspect is notable.
However, there are these fundamental questions. Questions about the actual value of its mining, these persistent problems with user access, the fact it's missing from major exchanges, partly due to transparency and regulatory worries and this underlying centralization. They all raise pretty significant red flags.
Significant challenges remain.
So for you, the listener, trying to understand Pi Network, it seems like you need to balance that ambitious vision against these very real operational and market hurdles it's facing. Its future still looks very speculative.
That seems like a fair assessment based on the sources.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. If a digital currency sets out to be for the masses, the very people supporting it, its most enthusiastic users, can't easily turn their digital efforts into tangible, real-world value. What does that really tell us about the true cost of free crypto?